Welcome back to Horns High Studios for another episode of 666 Seconds of Murder. That means each one of these videos is less than 666 seconds or 11 minutes and 6 seconds. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. And we're going to the Idaho 4 case. We're talking about something that's made me wonder. I did a video recently and this came up about these rich kids, and was there something else going on here? Remember though, with these videos, these are for informational purposes only. These are just my opinions and speculation. I am not saying anybody is guilty of anything. Everything is allegedly. Now, in a recent video I did on the Idaho 4 crimes, I brought up the possibility that one of the reasons that some of these victims may have been targeted was due to their social class. And I firmly believe that there were a few different reasons why these victims were targeted. And I do feel that it is very possible that one or more could have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, I was raised in a middle-class household in a county in the Northeast of the United States that was extremely wealthy. So I grew up around people with money, and most of them were totally cool. I wasn't bullied or anything like that, but it was obvious that they came from money and they did flaunt it quite a bit. Now, there were a lot of kids getting brand new Corvettes at 16, and I saved up my money from a paper route and cleaning pools to save up enough money to buy my mom's 73 Dodge Dart. And I was ecstatic to have that car. And I know that my parents instilled a work ethic in me that, I thank them for every chance I get because it has served me well. I mean, such as building this channel in short order. So to those who get everything handed to them, they don't know what that's like. But in the case of the Idaho 4, I do feel that there were many reasons that this happened. And I'm getting ready to do a video about a revised theory of how I think these crimes happened. I did a video called Lambs to the Slaughter a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen it, you may want to go check it out. But I am going to make some adjustments to that and maybe add some things to it. Now, I know that students pay a significant amount of money to belong to these fraternities and sororities. Now, for students from modest means, that's just not possible. I mean, they can barely afford the tuition cost, let alone a sorority or fraternity dues. But for the wealthy families that send their kids to college, it's expected that the kids are going to join that fraternity or sorority. It's definitely a status symbol, I think, both for the parents as well as the student. And it does open doorways after they graduate for jobs and that sort of thing. So I understand and I get it. Yet, when you dig into the details of how some of these organizations operate and treat their pledges, it is a nationwide epidemic of just really suspicious activity, unexplained deaths. I mean, it's really insane. And many colleges and universities are restricting these organizations or not allowing them on campus at all. It's about damn time. I mean, this whole thing is just completely banned. I mean, this is just completely messed up. I mean, I feel, that they operate similar to a cult that keeps their members quiet by brainwashing them. It's scary stuff, and it really should not be allowed to exist. Encouraging young people to bully each other and do dangerous activities should be a thing of the very distant past, in my opinion. Now, we know that all the fraternities and sororities were engaged in this entire mess when we hear about, the early morning Snapchats and messages going out. And we heard that from interviews with WSU mom Kim and her account of how her daughter learned of the news early that morning, along with many other students. And they weren't even on the U of I campus. All of those kids knew about this hours before 911 was called. And I suspect that, some knew about it even before it happened. Now, what I'd love to know is why the people that were at the house that morning before law enforcement made it to the scene, how they weren't charged with not reporting a crime. I'm thinking that maybe one of the reasons that law enforcement isn't releasing that 911 call. I mean, we heard it from Moscow PD in a press conference that multiple people were passing the phone around and talking to the 911 operator. So who were they? Only in the twilight zone of Moscow, Idaho, do these things seem to consistently happen. Why are they protecting those people that were already there? Were they questioned extensively? Was DNA collected from them? Shoe impressions, fingerprints, and all of that kind of stuff? I seriously doubt it. We know that the Moscow PD already had their man to hang on this one, and they weren't about to hassle these rich kids whose parents donate to the University of Idaho. We all know that the Idaho 4 revolves around money, as sad as that is to say. If drugs were involved, you're talking about a lot of money, and people in that business don't like losing it, okay? We also know that money and power can allow a few of people that were central to this story to just leave town in a big hurry. Everyone scattered to the wind after this happened and lawyered completely up. And people with money do that kind of thing. I mean, I get it. It's the smart thing to do. But when you're not wealthy, that's just not even a possibility. And that's why Brian Koberger is using a public defender. Does it seem odd that the only person who didn't leave town is the one guy sitting in the Latah County Jail in Moscow? If he was so guilty, why didn't he leave town like the rest of them? Maybe it was because he knew it would draw attention to him, and he did have that teaching job at WSU, but it still makes you wonder why he was the only one that didn't leave. The various fraternity and sorority members that have been discussed in this case all come from money, some more than others. Liz and Jack Katovich, remember them? Jack was the guy who tweeted "best weekend ever" the day after this happened. And his sister Liz was the one that got that Venmo payment from Molly Gray the day before the crimes happened with the memo that said 3:30 a.m. And yeah, that's not highly suspicious. Now, the father of Liz and Jack is a CEO for a large grain corporation in Eastern Washington. And Molly Gray's dad is also a CEO. The whole Gray family was there at the New York Stock Exchange ringing the bell when the company was gone public. This is only scratching the surface, but you get my point. These were mostly spoiled rich kids who had everything handed to them their entire life. I guarantee they weren't slinging newspapers or cleaning pools at 13 like I was, saving up to buy my mom's car. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, because I've been around this kind of stuff, that I'm very thankful that my parents did what they did to raise me right. What makes this story that much more disturbing is the fact that these kids didn't need to do what they did. They did it for just the thrill of it, in my opinion, at least partially. It reminds me of the Leopold and Loeb story, two rich kids in Chicago that committed murder simply for the thrill of it, and that's it. I mean, is that what happened here? Did they do it because they were getting away with things their entire lives? Did they not value human life and assume that they would just get away with it and daddy's checkbook would make it go away? Because if that's what they thought and they were involved in this, they were right, because daddy's checkbook has seemingly made all this go away. And maybe they were, taught this lesson by Moscow PD for letting them get away with their crap for all this time. The Hudson Lindau case would be a great example of that. Ruled an accident. And nothing to see here, like always, from the police. I think it's worth mentioning that Xana and Maddie didn't come from money. And I'm not sure about Kaylee and the extent of the Gonzalez family finances, but I do believe Ethan's family had some money, but I don't think it was CEO level money. If they could afford triplets going to college all at the same time, they definitely had some money. In either case, I wondered if these girls in the sorority had it out for Kaylee and Maddie because they were leaving the sisterhood. I also think that they looked down on the ones who didn't come from money like them. I mean, if you watch that grub truck footage, you can see how they were snubbed by them. And I don't think, there was, was a major reason why this happened, but I do see it as somewhat of a contributing factor, maybe a way to justify it in their spoiled, warped minds. By the way, if you recall that 4chan post, said one of the assailants was a female. If you look at that thumbnail I used for this video, Liz Katovich has some pretty bushy eyebrows. Just saying. Of course, allegedly. What do you guys think about this? Let me know what you think down below. I want to say thank you to the Horntie Club. You guys are awesome. You rock. I appreciate that support. And I appreciate all of you guys that watch these videos. We'll see you next time on 666 Seconds of Murder.